The United States of America and Israel are once again stepping up their military attack on Iran, but this time with a deployment of US ground troops on Iranian territory. Donald Trump returned from Beijing, but without a breakthrough on Iran and without any concrete commitments from China to put pressure on Tehran. And right now, at this very moment, the New York Times is publishing an article that completely changes the entire logic of the war with Iran. In the coming days, the US may launch a ground special operation on Iranian territory to seize nuclear materials. And this is important because many people pointed out that right after his visit to Beijing, right after the summit with Xi Jinping, Trump would return to real war. Not to airstrikes, but specifically to a ground operation involving special forces. Anyway, we're going to discuss all the details now. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the episode, leave any comment, and please subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, American media, citing sources, claim that Trump, after the failure of negotiations with China on Iran, decided to take active steps. These have been talked about for a long time. The US and Israel are ready for a ground operation in Iran. If this happens, it will be the first deployment of American ground forces on Iranian territory in the course of this war. The first real escalation of this kind if we don't count air operations. And let's break down why exactly now, what's behind this, and how realistic it actually is. Let's start with the main question. Why does Donald Trump need a ground operation at all? Today, the answer was given by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. And I'll quote further. Operation Epic Fury took place 8 months after Operation Midnight Hammer. Last year's strikes dealt significant damage to Iran's nuclear program, leaving few high-value targets for additional American attacks. So the logic is that air power has already done everything it could. The 3 nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, have already been bombed, but the problem hasn't been solved, and here's the issue. So CNN Today, based on 7 current and former officials familiar with military planning, explains. The American airstrikes did not destroy all of Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Most of it is stored in an underground facility at the Isfahan nuclear site. The head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, stated that about 200 kilograms of Iranian highly enriched uranium apparently still remain in Isfahan. Some of it is also stored in Natanz, and here the key figure is 200 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. According to the IAEA, this is enough for about 10 nuclear warheads, and Iran refuses to give up these reserves. Why can't air power and airstrikes solve this problem on their own? American airstrikes alone can't break through the tunnels at Isfahan. First of all, because the facility doesn't have ventilation shafts like some other Iranian nuclear sites have, and those shafts serve as weak points in the storage facility. So in June of last year, when the Americans bombed those nuclear sites, they were able to break through precisely when they hit those ventilation shafts. But in the case of Isfahan, the bombs simply don't hit where they need to. The tunnels go very deep, with layers of rock above, and below there's uranium in a gaseous form, pumped into special steel cylinders. So, of course, you can keep bombing forever, but the problem won't be solved, and this is where things get really interesting. The Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington publishes satellite images and explains that since the airstrikes of Operation Midnight Hammer last year, Iran has started excavations at the old tunnel entrances near the underground nuclear facility in Isfahan. So, Iran is clearing the tunnels themselves and still trying to get to the nuclear facility. This means they're getting that very highly enriched uranium. So they already have access to it, and that's exactly Washington's main fear. If the uranium ends up in the hands of the new Iranian leadership, the successor to Khamenei, who was killed in the first hours of the war, then the process will be completely uncontrollable. because now the power in the country completely belongs to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps without any moderate restraining factors as there were before. At this point, power is completely in the hands of the military, and these military leaders clearly do not even want to enter into negotiations with the Americans. How can this issue be resolved, and what operation is the White House currently discussing? In the White House, they say that everything that is happening has led to discussions within the Trump administration about the deployment of elite units from the U.S. Special Operations Command, potentially in coordination with Israeli commandos, to physically enter the tunnels and capture or destroy enriched uranium. But then there's an important caveat. Such a mission would require dozens, if not hundreds, of additional troops on the ground to support the main Special Forces group. So this isn't a raid by some small group of soldiers. No, this is a large-scale operation. General David Petraeus, the former commander of Central Command, the man who led the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, just today on Fox News warned, and I quote, "That would be very, very high stakes. It would be extremely risky, and the losses could be quite significant." This man is speaking, a man who personally planned some of the most complex operations in modern military history, and he's saying, basically, it's not worth it. And if it is worth it, then absolutely all the risks need to be calculated. Nuclear disarmament experts say that in Iran, the US can't just send in a team, a small special forces group, without significant risk. Why? Because to carry out such an operation, you would need to establish a secure perimeter in the middle of Iran. It would probably take thousands of American troops to secure the site, while American experts dug up the highly enriched uranium located in deep tunnels at a place called Isfahan. Thousands of troops on Iranian territory in the very heart of a country that, despite all its losses, still has an active army. But the temptation for Donald Trump, of course, is strong. Because, according to US regulatory estimates, highly enriched uranium can be stored in about 16 cylinders, each less than 1 meter tall, about the size of a large scuba tank. Each cylinder weighs about 25 kilograms, light enough to be transported by car or even by hand. Well, the idea is that a small special forces group, hypothetically, could steal and take away the uranium. It doesn't seem like much. 16 cylinders wouldn't be a big problem at all. But the question is how to actually pull it off. What does Trump say? Well, Trump himself said words that basically announce this decision. Just last week, before going to Beijing, he stated, and I quote, "One thing is certain, I will never allow the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world, which they are by a huge margin, to have nuclear weapons." Then, when he was already flying from Beijing, he said that this will be resolved one way or another. One way or another means if we don't agree, we'll go to war. Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, slightly outlined the stages of this war, and he stated that Operation Epic Fury is over, as the president already notified Congress at the beginning of May. So, he says, this stage is over. Next, the US moves on to the following stage. This stage is called Project Freedom. This is an attempt to unblock the Strait of Hormuz. Right, and regarding uranium, Rubio said something fundamental. It's enough to say that the president and our entire team realize how central this issue is, and it will have to be resolved one way or another. Project Freedom is the second stage. One way or another, this phrase about uranium is already the third stage. And sources in the White House now claim that the third stage could begin in the coming days. At the same time, China, which was supposed to help, or at least that was the hope, didn't help at all. Trump is returning from China without a breakthrough on Iran and has to make some kind of decision. And now sources are saying that this decision will involve an attempt to land special forces for a ground operation to seize that very highly enriched uranium. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. I would appreciate any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.